Hi guys, Ben back again. Well, the whole idea about today's video is going to be me trying to explain things about my exhaust system, which is a free flow muffler. It's a standard bend pipe with the catalytic converter in it, and then to that I have installed a free flow muffler from Red Rooster Performance, and this is not for sound like most of you guys think. My whole intention behind doing this was to increase the performance of the vehicle, to get a little bit more of a top end grunt, and also to have a stronger throatier pull, a stronger mid-range, increased torque, and I could just go on and on about the benefits of adding a free flow muffler and getting the tuning right. So without further ado, let's get into the video and see you guys in a bit. Okay, so the Red Rooster Exhaust, and why this? Well, there could be a lot of reasons behind having a free flow exhaust, but the primary reason why I got myself one is because I want a little more of top end pull, and I was always happy with the low end of the Himalayan, it being a torquey motor. I was quite fine with the low end grunt of the Himalayan, but I wanted some the same kind of grunt at the higher RPMs, and nothing like a free flow muffler. Why is because if you were to go in for the full system, then there's a lot that you are putting at stake. To start with, the removal of the catalytic converter, and then going against the emission laws, and the overall sound being a little too much, and the lack of back pressure. There's a lot of things that you are risking when you lose out on back pressure completely. So it's always a better idea to go for a muffler if you are somebody who tours on the bike, if you do a lot of varied riding conditions, and you're not just all about whack open throttle. So this is the best thing to go for. And why Red Rooster in particular is because I've had this particular brand on my other motorcycles for about 10 years now. I started with an R15, and this is an R15, a classic 350, a 500, a Continental GT, and this is my Himalayan. So this would be technically the fifth or sixth exhaust end can or the muffler on on some of my motorcycles, and I have grown to trust them and their quality. So that's the Red Rooster Performance exhaust and why it is here. Okay, so coming to the sound part of the exhaust, I am not a big fan of really loud motorcycle exhausts or mufflers, and so I usually run this with the dB killer in there, and it's a very subtle muffled note. In fact, this with the dB killer is even more subtler than the stock exhaust. I have a custom dB killer on here, which I'll talk to you guys about in a second. That'll be a separate part of the video where I'll kind of run you through why I have made some alteration to the stock dB killer. Okay, so if you guys can see, at about 1 meter distance, the exhaust with the stock dB killer makes about 85 as an average, 85 decibels, and that's quite loud, but that is what I believe is the permissible limit of idling exhaust note. So back again with my trusty multi-purpose tool, and that's a size, I don't seem to find it here. I think that would be a 3 mm, I guess, a 3 mm Allen key that goes inside this. And okay, so here we are with the decibel killer. And so why did I go about fabricating it this way? Well, this is the image of the stock and my custom dB killer. And so now, since you've seen what the difference is, the stock having about this length of perforated perforations on the steel tube, and this is an excess, I mean slightly longer, I would say by 5 centimeters steel tube, and has far less perforations in it, and that too it is towards the end, slightly away from the end, and maybe just covers 1/4 of the entire length of the tube, or maybe 1/3 of the entire length of the tube. And well, there's a reason for that. Well, this much is stock. I haven't played around with this portion. This portion comes as a part of the dB killer, and what I've done is I've just taken the steel tube and welded it on to the stock mouth or the mouthpiece, and then drill these holes. If you can see these holes, I don't know if you can see the light through the holes. Yes, so that's roughly 12 holes in total. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, a total of 18 holes. That's what I've drilled. It's more of a trial and error process. At first I just replaced the stock dB killer with this steel tube without any perforations in it, and then I found that the kind of sound that this produced was a little too whistly for me. It was whistling instead of giving a nice wonderful rumbled note. And then so I started drilling these holes. At first it was just 3 holes, and then it became 6, and then became 9, and then now it's double of 9, so that's 18 holes in total to get that right sweet muffled tone. And I'm super happy with the way this has turned out to be. For now, I do not really enjoy loud exhausts or exhaust or mufflers, so this has kind of settled that sound issue for me. Now, coming to the length of this particular tube, why did I increase the length of the stock dB killer? The stock dB killer was somewhere around this much, which was completely perforated. So now I have about another 5 centimeters of steel tubing extra. Well, the stock dB killer did not provide enough back pressure. So what happened, the Red Rooster being a straight through muffler, that is what I mean by that is the exhaust gases from the bend pipe after the catalytic converter just flow straight. They don't have any resistance because of intrusions inside the exhaust system. There's just one baffle or that one core, and it looks pretty much like this with perforations, and the exhaust gases go in from one end, go out from the other end. So there's nothing actually kind of I mean, yes, you could technically say that the baffle inside is kind of providing a little bit of back pressure, but that being said, it's just a tiny margin, and that I felt wasn't enough for the low end, because I had completely messed up the low end power band of the motorcycle, and I was finding it really hard to move around for local chores and all that. So what I did was I started with this 17 point no, this was technically a longer tube. This was about 19 centimeters of tube, and then I chopped it down to 17 and a half. So this portion that you see is chopped out about 2.5 centimeters or an inch. I had to chop off an inch because at 19 the back pressure was a little too much for me, and the bike again did not feel good. So when I chopped it off to about 17.5 centimeters is when this just started looking and sounding amazing. This just started feeling amazing. So what I'm trying to tell you is, I want you to understand something. Decibel killers just don't play a role in lowering the decibel levels. They also act like an additional core or an additional baffle. Well, the term baffle and I'll just get another pen. And DB killers are almost the same thing, and yet not same. How, you may ask? That is, the catch is, if your exhaust system from the header till the end or till the tail is one straight piece and there's absolutely nothing inside, then it can be called an exhaust system without a baffle. And the kind of mufflers that we buy and we shove into our bend pipes are mufflers which already have a baffle system in them. So they have a perforated tube in the center, and there's glass wool packing, and there's or at times there's steel wool packing, and all that kind of acts like a muffler. It kind of muffles the sound or the exhaust gases sound. And so if you think if you get the idea, decibel killers, these additional pieces that go into a muffler are also kind of doing the same thing. It's kind of making the sound a little more, it's kind of reducing the sound a tiny bit more. So these things are also acting like baffles, but they are additional baffles. They are mouthpiece baffles. They are towards the end of the exhaust, and like an add-on. You can, if you want, you can remove them. You want, you can plug them in. So these things are add-ons, and they are also called baffles, but technically they can also be different. By that I mean the exhaust that comes straight from the mufflers that come straight from the factories these days already have a core, a baffle system inside, and this is just an additional piece. So the DB killer on an exhaust which already has a baffle still plays a huge role in reducing and increasing back pressure. So when this came out of the factory, like how you saw in the image, with perforations all over from here till here. This was an entire perforated tube, completely perforated tube, and it didn't have enough back pressure. It did a good job at muffling the sound levels, but it was still a little too loud for me, and it just didn't have any back pressure going on. So what I did, I took this steel piece and I just welded it, and gave me a good amount of back pressure. And then when I found that my back pressure was kind of messing with my throttle inputs, I had to reduce it by 1 inch, and I still wasn't convinced with the sound of the sound of this particular contraption that I made. So I started drilling holes, and this is where we are, about 18 holes, differently sized holes, and the right muffle note that I want, and the right amount of back pressure for the muffler, the red Rooster muffler. Now, what if you take this out of the picture? Well, what if I take that out of the picture? Then